It's not enough no space, but it's still allowing me to record, which is interesting. I'm gonna just see how this goes. Greetings. I don't know if it was trying to like instruct me to go buy some more stores, but we're not doing it. Greetings to all. It's been a minute. How you been? Let me get myself. This chair is not doing what I wanted to do. How y'all been out there, man? It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute. Greetings. Give honors and source to the creator for making this possible. This is a different and new camera, a different laptop. Looks really clear though. Like this need a white. Oh, this is not a screen record. I am recording. Let's see. Hey. Anywho, it's been a while since I actually wanted to chime in or actually create a video on something. But I have something pulled up, but it was already in my mind to really talk about this subject right now, or just the climate of what is feel the transformation, the healing, and also it's we're in Scorpio season. This is my season, by the way. In Western astrology, I was considered born under the in the sign of Scorpio. Shout out to my Scorpions, or I'm in that Phoenix energy. I literally got, if y'all can see, like this cover I have on. This it's a pullover, but it go all the way down, like almost to my calf muscles. But anywho, it's like most of it is orange, so I feel like I'm in that fire energy. But anywho, Scorpio again is a season of depth, and also what I want to call it, transformation, healing, and what was the other one? Transformation, healing, and like shadow aspect, like going real deep into self, learning things that are hidden, things that are like that a lot of emotions, a lot of things, because it's a water sign. Um, a lot of things are coming up. For me, when I look at individually in the collective of what's happening right now before us all, this theme of inconsiderate. Now, there's one thing to mention. Well, let me hold on before I give my spiel on everything. Let's give an honor to the ancestors known and unknown, most high, creator, whatever you subscribe to, for this very moment. Anywho, gratitude to you being here. A lot of you who have made it to this very point in your life right now in this season. It seems like what they call we're in the fourth quarter right now of the, and I don't mean like sports wise, fourth quarter in the sense of like um of the year, like the season and so forth. And very much so right now. This topic I want to talk about has a lot to do with where there isn't a lot of consideration, I should say. There is being inconsiderate. And the reason why this is so vital for me, why does my water bottle do this? Anyway, the reason why this is so vital is because I've been seeing a huge theme of this as I dive more deep into myself and realize like it's not so much accountability is one thing, but consideration is another thing. Where there isn't so much awareness around like being accountable or people holding us accountable, like, the disciplinary of a father being there or a mother holding us accountable in our, if you want to say mistakes, or even through our lessons that we're learning, which is lifelong. I'm realizing that I see a theme around people who are very inconsiderate. And I'm gonna read because I pulled up the etymology as well, but also I assume that it would be different, but it actually is similarly to what, if you want to call it the English, what do you call it, the English description or whatever, definition. So what I did have written down was when I looked at it online, it was saying done thoughtlessly, heedless, careless, indiscreet, from the Latin inconsideratus, headstrong, unadvised of persons, thoughtless, literally not properly considered. From in, not opposite of, and consideratus, sense of without regarding to for the feelings of others. And this is as from 1842 related to inconsiderately. Now, the reason why this is so vital, um, me speaking not just on the level of a man that's darker, but if you're new here, I speak on all levels of, again, when I'm realizing what I see what people are fighting for, or their fight for a sense of being seen, their fight for a sense of being acknowledged, being feeling valid, or even just their human experience. And this is on all levels, dealing with sensuality, sexuality, nationality, um, so many different levels. Speaking from what comes up for me on a deeper level is just being a man that is darker in said a country that hasn't considered and honored the is this a word, the humanization, or even the value of who it is I am as a man, and also what I'm representing and what that entails, or even um, how that is or has been portrayed to the masses or the collective. And the reason why I realize this is so vital is because pay attention even to the actions of, like, let's say y'all hear me speak about the matriarchal a lot, um, and how it has enabled what we see, how inconsiderate, you know, we have been towards the feelings, disregarding others' feelings. And with men, being ruled by Mars, if we want to bring, astrology into play, we're talking about action and assertiveness and respect, admiration. So when you have these distorted representation of a man and a woman aren't considered of, let's say, people who are of a darker shade, and then here we are growing and this energy being passed on to these children who have this mindset, or in a transgenerationally or intergenerationally, of carrying this unresolved traumas or unresolved issues, dealing with the climate of what you see of people who are lighter and darker, whether it be racism or some type of self-hatred. I had to tell and express to, especially our women, and this goes both ways, or just whomever you are, there is an inconsiderate aspect of being very thoughtless or careless towards others who are just simply trying to be themselves. There's an attack on someone who's trying to simply be authentic or show up as themselves, because we live in a climate that is very fucking inconsiderate of others. And that starts from within. That starts from the fact of, how do I feel about myself? If I don't care about my feelings towards myself, or I grew up in climates or demographics or environments where the image of who I was has always been to not consider myself first, meaning that to not consider my emotions, to not consider um, how I would view things from a lens of an observer rather than an absorber. And what I've been realizing what's happening in this climate is that we've been in a climate of absorbers, people absorbing everything, everyone's idea, opinion of what they should be. And what that does is that it pushes more of a negative connotation, or a perspective on how we view ourselves individually, because it's been this hyper aspect of individualism, which has caused people to be inconsiderate and also not be held accountable for their actions, for their headstrongness, for even the fact of being so thoughtless when it comes to even for one, the inner child. And then that leads to being inconsiderate of the children. So now you have generations of people where that's a disconnect because a lot of the boomers or a lot of elders where they didn't grow up in generations where they were considered. Okay, when you're talking about a darker man or a darker woman, where when you're talking about resources, when you're talking about certain things that were uh, their birthright or their, just their, not just their birthright, but for them to just on this earth's plane or in this world to just naturally be or organically like have or and when you have forces at play or have people in place with greed and gluttony and so forth who are very, when it says careless or done thoughtlessly, when they create a system not considering the other people, the people who um actually laid out the blueprint for them. So when you have other people who come around and certain things come in, this is not just color, but you're talking about people of different, as different viewpoints of life, where they're not considering other people when they do create their family structures or when they do create their systems. And what you're seeing now, all of it's the inconsideracy, the inconsiderate, yeah, if that's a word, that's what's basically crumbling in on itself. We've created or enabled a world that does not truly consider because of from a selfless place, or not just selfless, but self-righteous place. And it's important again not to know thyself. Because for one, in order for me to feel like to see the collective and the oneness of everything, or to see other people and not judge, or there's the most high judgment source, and then there's judging righteously, like holding people accountable, like what I'm doing, and being like, you say you're this, but when you did create that, you didn't have darker people in mind. Or when you created this, you didn't have other people of different shades in mind. You didn't have people of different nationalities, whatever their religious belief and so forth. You didn't have them in mind. So this is where the cookie crumbles. This is where the fun begins. Because it's not about we, for one, I can hold people accountable all day, but I cannot make them do anything. But what I will bring to the masses right now is the importance that we're fucking inconsiderate. You do not care about those people's feelings. You do not care about even if they eat. If they eat, you don't even. What type of leadership or what type of structures have we had in place to have the most homelessness in the world? What type of consideration is there to have the most incarcerated people in the world? What type of leadership is for people to have people uh, living and bunched up in a city where most of the country is vacant with an abundance of land? So again, you bought into a system or you got consumed by something. And again, we all were a part of it, and not literally not realizing that you were bought, you got sold into an illusion. And now that people come along and shatter your illusion that you're very inconsiderate, even at times I was. Even at times there's a balance between considering self and to get away from the inconsiderate. So the inconsiderate now will project onto you how selfish you are for considering your feelings, for considering loving yourself. Because we didn't come from a society like that. But the society we did come from, and it's not all, but most, are very inconsiderate people. They're not, and what I mean by that, they're just concerned for their well-being or just for their family. And so now everything that is shattering, the illusion being shattered, everything that's crumbling and, being dismantled is a society being reborn and rebuilt through considering not just oneself, not just individual, but the balance between living in this world, in this on this earth's plane, or in this whatever, amongst other people. It was like that at a point in time. The inability for people to um, want to hold or be succumbed by forces, be succumbed by the darkness, and not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel because they were consumed by their by unforeseen forces, let's say, or by their own ego, by their own power. What I'm recognizing at play right now is that you're seeing where you're either going to see play out um, the old narrative of people who are power driven, power struggles, uh, and also in that beginning with self. Whether you say the ego and the spirit, or the higher self and the ego, or the balance between authenticity or truest self and the lower self, however you want to look at it. The awareness around it is that you'll be able to see clearly now where not only just power struggles, but uh, man, it was right there. People who or human beings are just like uh, not just power struggles. It'll come to me. It was something dealing with power, like people who are just driven off that. And it's not just women, and not just men, it's women too, because again, it's what people have been enabling to feel a sense of superiority in a world, in a reality, or wherever. And again, it's headstrong, meaning like it's just driven off of ego. Um, and it's very thoughtless. It's very careless, and a lot of people aren't aware. That's what unconsciousness comes into play, to where people aren't aware what's driving them. And if for people who are in tune, we're recognizing what is driving these very people. If it's coming from a wounded place, or it's coming from a place of unresolved emotions, traumas, or places where they have not succumbed to their childhood woundings, or through the childhood development through their into their adulthood, then we're looking at people who are driven by whether unforeseen forces or things that are driven by woundedness, a wounded masculinity from a wounded femininity within. So these aren't people who are going to consider all people, whether that be a people of color or darker shades, or people, and so forth. So that's what I'm able to recognize. I'm realizing like people don't want their losing shadow. So when you come along, I clearly tell people you're very inconsiderate. Yeah, your mama didn't tell you because she was inconsiderate as well. Your daddy didn't tell you. No, when I tell people you built communities, you know what you purposely did with the intentions of it being done thoughtlessly, that, carelessly, that it would not come to, your karma wouldn't catch up with you. The intentions that you set behind these organizations, these business, these communities, and so forth, whether that be to favor people who do not look like you, whether that be to it only giving resources to people, and so forth. I dove deeper into even like you seeing this, the veil being lifted, of seeing so much of how certain systems were built on to support people of a lighter shade. And again, the ignorance around it being done thoughtlessly to hinder our people, to keep people from progressing. And in reality, they never truly progress, because people assume that just because someone looks like on the outside that they're progressing materialistically, that they're progressing spiritually. They're not evolving, and they have not evolved. Those who have a more deeper conscious awareness of this, we realize that people have not evolved. They haven't evolved. They don't want to shift their mindset. They don't want to acknowledge their suppressed and repressed emotions. And so what we're looking at, when you're looking at even from a child, you see a child, this is why the inner child is so important. You see a child consider other children. They don't see all that shit when you're young. They just see people. And most of the time they just feel off the energy and vibe. And so what we have done, some people who call themselves adults or of certain status, you got into a place where you do not consider, I don't care how wealthy you are, whatever your status, you don't consider the people that are homeless until it happens to you. You don't consider the people, the mothers and the mothers and children that go try to every day, that know that it's in a system that doesn't want them to truly progress. It just monitors and wanted to dictate everything that they do, keep their keep them in a place of this poverty-like mindset. So collectively, we haven't been considerate of others. And no one wants to hold their hand to the flame on that because they know they'll get burned. But this is me as a representation of like the Pluto and Scorpio as a Phoenix energy, as an energy of like just authenticity. I burn this shit down, metaphorically speaking, spiritually, just by being me, just by illuminating who I am and being who I am unapologetically. I'm not gonna apologize for what being myself in a world who prioritize a mask and wants our children to just, you know, feel like they're under someone. That's bullshit. Because our children are the beacons of light to remind us of our innocence, how we should be considerate of others, but not forgetting about ourselves first. See, that was the veil, the illusion that was pulled over a lot of us. We got away from considering other people. We got away from compassion. We got away from our truest self, which is that the truest self is that little child, that little boy, the little girl inside of you, the essence of who you are that um, realizes that in order for me to live amongst this world, I don't live it alone. I don't live it just by myself. There are other people that are a part of me, my progression. There are other people, even if they don't agree or accept my ideology or belief system and so forth, that's fine. This isn't a country or a place or environment that prioritizes peace, that values considering, learning how to be more self-sufficient, knowing thyself above all things, so that you know how to navigate this world through energy, through people, learning people of actions and observing um, life and living life to its fullest, to its truest form. So again, we have been very self-righteous and it's been very imbalanced. Because again, for a world that has abundance of resources and for people to even live, to even be in homelessness, and then for homelessness not even to exist in other countries, how do we call ourselves a country of morality? How do we call ourselves a country or an environment of honesty and integrity that they put on the side of police cars, that they put some, on buildings and so forth, and didn't think that that energy would someday surface? These are the seeds that you planted. When you see governmental structures or certain things that have shifted, it's simply because uh, the last is being made first, and also there's a shift in power. No matter who people assume they are here on this earthly plane and so forth, there is nothing more higher than source. There is nothing higher, nothing greater than, with us living in our truest form or being our most authentic self, unapologetically. Again, we have groomed people, or we've been groomed to believe that we should gather all these resources. We should gather all these things, even on the earth or whatever you want to say it, without considering other people. And that's why I keep telling y'all, for the people who did not have grace and done these things thoughtlessly and think that there would not be this is the ignorance. I'm going to leave with this. This is the ignorance. You literally have people every day or systems that were put in place that tricked you into believing that there's a reward for being inconsiderate. There's a reward for being ignorant. There's a reward for not considering, like, not know, basically considering that your actions will have an effect on not only you, but your generations. And this is the thing about being a cycle breaker or a curse breaker. The beauty of how intention, because again, we always there. I was there, living life and then think that, oh, well, because we grew up in environments where people were inconsiderate. When you had a mother and father that did not honor themselves, did not love themselves, did not hold space for themselves, did not consider themselves, because they came from generations where they were distracted. They were distracted by the external. This is what kept them looping through being so inconsiderate. And then someone dare come along and hold them accountable. And when they're not used to a consistent pattern, they're used to inconsistency. They're not used to showing up for themselves. So why are we expecting a generation to show up for us now? When they're not, they were never created. A lot of them, their path here, their journey here was for it to stop with us, for us to mirror back to them how inconsiderate they are. It doesn't mean that they're not great, they're not amazing, how valuable they are, but that's the value in seeing considerate we should be for ourselves and generations after. How to see people who will keep going on in their self-righteousness and not consider what's really happening in this world. And they will collect more and more karma from that. When you're talking about a nation or a place that hasn't considered, without regards for feeling of others, or hasn't even considered the fact of holding space for people who have repressed so much emotions due to their uh, due to them being seen as they do wrong, or they're not even capable of being human or capable of succeeding. This like this is a narrative that has been put. This is an energy. And then now, when people are realizing how important it is for us to love ourselves and honor ourselves and hold space for ourselves, then that projection of us being inconsiderate, which is a projection of the generations before, they will not overstand or understand the ability to realize, like, in our resting, in our ability to honor who we are, in our ability to actually change the cycle. We are considering the generations after us. We are considering the importance of valuing ourselves above money, valuing ourselves above the opinions of others, valuing ourselves more than what societal norms is or are, and so forth. Because the belief system of the old world does not uphold truth and morality or honesty. As much as people believe that they were living in truth, you've been fooled. You fooled yourself. You've been fooling yourself. You have not considered other people because you masked it around your passive aggressiveness, behind your religion, behind your status, behind your monetary systems, behind everything. And now that it's shattering, now shame and guilt is written all over your faces. You cannot even hide it. And no one's asking you to hold on to shame and guilt. We had to navigate and maneuver through what shame and guilt was, because we had to realize what was ours and what wasn't. So I don't need to feel guilty over considering my emotions, considering myself this time around. I don't have to feel guilty over that. I don't have to feel shameful for my actions of what and how I got here. Even if I was inconsiderate, now I know how to consider myself and consider the importance of others. Even if I did not know what it was at times, from my own experience, the importance of what sex meant to me, my or what the importance of emotional well-being, my spiritual well-being, and so forth. Now I'm able to consider that, take that in consideration. So now the new order of things is what wasn't done will be done. The things that was ignored will no longer be ignored. There will be no stone go over unturned. As much as the old world wants to convince you, keep going, keep working, doing all that. No, I tell people, you can't. There's nothing against AI, but this AI over here is authentic intelligence. That's what, when we talk about spiritual warfare, physical warfare, authentic intelligence. I'm not saying certain things cannot be used and so forth, but that some of these things that's not even surprise me, but this is authentic intelligence. I don't. It's so many. I'm not gonna. That's a whole nother subject. But anywho, I'm not finna give any type of certain miscommunication on that. But I'm just letting you know, like again, what we're dealing with here is people who are very headstrong, people who have been very thoughtless and careless to consider other people. And the beauty of this is that our generations are bridge for that to no longer exist. It won't. And the beauty of being divinely, and that's the beauty of walking fearlessly in who we are. And that's the thing about like being considered on the front line and walking purposefully. Ain't nothing gonna touch a hair on my head. I'm divinely guided and protected. When you know that your steps as you walk in your purpose, your steps will be ordered. Your path will be lit. All of what was assumed to be removed will be replaced tenfold. I say, so be it. And that's the beauty of a lot of it, is that it's no different than through generations where they had people come along and you had people with this knowledge. You had people, I mean, just imagine people who considered other people's opinions rather than just taking up their own. You consider others' opinions, or not even just opinions, but their ideas. You consider other people. We come from generations where when the father and all this was removed and mama had to do all those other things, she was left in a position where she was not considered. Then she had a system that did not even consider her. And I'm speaking about darker women. I'm talking about a shade. And the reason why I'm talking about the origins is because scientifically, I gotta tell y'all, it's just not to favor anyone. It's more so, again, seeing the root, going to the root of what even safety and stability is. If there is a system put in place that does not consider the safety of a woman, the indigenous woman of this nation, of the world, that does not consider the safety, the stability, the human needs, the basic human needs, then the home in itself, spiritually, before we can contribute or create this physical, for this physical plane or this, homes or whatever is created, there can be no peace if she's not considered first. If her children, this is the divine mother I be telling you about, the spiritual mother, Big Mama, that energy, she considers all her children, no matter what shade. Because on a deeper level, on a soul level, spiritual level, we all come from source, Big Mama, the big, the mighty energy of Mama, the matriarchal that brings forth every nation and generation here. So when you hear other people speak of that energy, that force, this is Mama stepping in and letting her presence be known through vessels, through people, through children who just want to be considered, through people, whatever their sexual preference is, who just want to be considered through from their soul's expression. I can't control how people want to express themselves. It's more so the morality, the authenticity, the self-expression on how we've always lived amongst each other. No matter what species, human being, or whatever, we've always lived amongst each other. You got to ask yourself, who and what has been at play? Powers that used to be. Now the powers that be ain't going for that shit. The reign of terror is over. So when you see people in certain places, no matter their status and so forth, look how inconsiderate they are. I don't care about how they boast and act so much and high mighty they were given gifts. We all were giving gifts. We all were giving an idea. We all were giving a spark. And I start to observe and really see how inconsiderate someone is. How they'll bring up someone's race, how they'll bring up someone this, as if all people that look like this or a certain shade or lighter shade was all a part of certain people's demise, as if there wasn't people that look like me that wasn't also a part of other people's demise who were very inconsiderate of darker people as well. Come on. They're saying it's deeper than that. It's much more deeper than that. You still got people at a point in time when you're talking about tribes and things that are going back to the original aspect of things, even through this transition of things, whether it's digitally, spiritually, and so forth, there are people on a deeper level that are going through healing, that are going through transformation, that are going through learning the depths of more themselves to realize like, oh, this has been beyond color from the get-go. Some of you hold that energy through that healing, through the learning that I have to see past what the world was trying to give to me, share to me, to have me believe in. But how am I going to evolve past this? And I have to observe and see how unhappy they are, how inconsiderate they are of others, how unhappy they are. So something ain't adding up. You got all this material, you got all this money, you go to the best schools, you got all this other stuff. And then for you come from people who are not compassionate. They're very inconsiderate of others. And imagine being around a father, a mother, grandmother, and then you start to really see their actions. You really start to pick up on their vibe. You really start to realize, the deeper you get to know yourself, thyself, you start to realize, like, wow, their world, their universe in their eyes is not the fucking same as yours. That's just like people telling me not to consider people that look like this just because of what they went through in the 70s, 80s. That doesn't mean I didn't transgenerationally or intergenerationally carry that. At the same moment, I cannot classify and put all people in there. That's why I stay away from people who always try to push that narrative. Because everybody not like that. Everybody didn't treat me like they treated maybe my grandfather and so forth. But if I'm here to transmute and alchemize something, and I want to be able to be a bridge and create a world where my children first can be or create a narrative around like that's the thing where they are afraid of. It's like you having the power to change the narrative, to speak, to walk in your authenticity. And you just thinking that it's a physical thing when people attack you. No, it's their own internal vices, their own spiritual shit, their own warfare that they're going through. So again, they don't know anything else but to be intimidated rather than captivated. So again, we coming from a world who is naturally intimidated. Old worlds, narratives that use intimidation as a manipulative tactic, use their powers to try to intimidate other people, to bully, and so forth. Not here, not here. And I don't have to do it with my physical. As I start to tap in and become more aware, I'm starting to realize like, oh no, I don't gotta touch you because I realize there's more power in realizing I don't have to react anymore. My response is even more greater. And this is how I respond. I respond with moving on in life. I respond with the realizing there are others who will meet me. Shout out to Earth, Wind, and Fire. There are others along your path. I was sitting here in the parking lot the other day and I was like, wow. If you think about what actually the multiverse actually really means, it means everyone has their own universe in their world. Like I see things completely different than you, right? Correct? Okay, then. Now, out of how many billions, who knows the number of people in this world, children and so forth, every mother that was pregnant did not see the world the same way. Every mother, especially women in certain demographics, did not have the same resources and so forth. They did not have the same emotions. So for a fucking system to be created so thoughtlessly to even assume that every mother should have the same treatment. Every woman don't even get the same amount of what y'all call SNAP benefits. Every person don't get the same resources. Every person does not. Every mother that I knew, their experiences from whether interacting with the child's father and so forth, even their family dynamic was not the same. Do they all realize how idiotic or just ignorant for us to assume to make a system that just puts everyone in a fucking box that all mothers are the same. Think women. Feel what I'm saying here. To put all women, how inconsiderate is that? To put all women of a darker shade in this box that all of them are the same. They're not valuable. they're this, they're that. Even their men, their sons, to put all of them in this. How inconsiderate is it of that? I can express and wear this orange, but for someone triggering from a little boy who's only seen how men are portrayed that look like me, they will see this. And you don't even know subconsciously their mind can just, even for people who have been to jail, their mind could go to that. And then some people who never have even experienced things as such will just see a color. I had someone because this thing drapes down so long to where they assumed that I was what, uh, Islamic or a part of something. Because people who wear those that attire to reflect or represent their religious belief, and and again, I had to remind them it's just a pullover, bro. This is a sweater, and it's okay. But it's just the fact of how our minds, our human minds, operate because of what we've been given from society. We've been given a narrative of even how some of you, even of lighter shade, I've been given a narrative of how all men look that look like me. You've been given a narrative, and you haven't even thought for yourself or even got to know someone, get to know someone. You don't care. You carelessly because you've been consumed by a system or given this narrative. And that's the thing, what makes you inconsiderate of darker people. You're very inconsiderate. And it's the same for people that are darker. I know them too. They're very inconsiderate of other people because they've taken on a narrative that all people that don't look like them. And it's not to exclude or downplay their experience because some of them have had traumatic and horrible experience. My dad, my mom, my grandmother, and so forth. But it's me being elected or chosen to rewrite the narrative around it. I won't fear or have any fear towards people that look like that. You do subconsciously in your workspaces. People that are darker have this subconscious fear, not all, but this fear of the inability to even progress past that. Like let's say from a working like this poverty mentality to an entrepreneur mentality where they have to go through the highs and lows, where they have to connect more to their emotional well-being and physical well-being and so forth to be able to not just attract but to become something completely different than what a narrative that was given to them. Because you know what that forces people to do is to consider others when they do expand beyond their horizon. You naturally have to consider other people who will be your client or will be your supporters. And in the world that has, as I realized, like in the system like that has not considered people that are darker, I see why a lot of people. It's not Stockholm syndrome. It's something else where people feel like almost out of place because they're around people that are lighter shade in these dynamics or these places where you don't see a lot of people that are darker simply because of what they're either hindered, or they're either kept out of spaces, and then not just by people that are lighter, but the hidden black hand, as some may call it, or people from other places that are, powerful, who do not want people to progress or be connected or seen to the masses because of the effect they will have. Not looking for acceptance, but the effect, like the ripple effect that they will have on said people to come into a deeper awareness to, let's say, consider other people. The people that you have had in power, the people that you have not seen, are a people, are beings who do not consider the masses, who do not consider everyone. They just simply consider themselves and just see just themselves. And this is where you have the old world narrative, the templates of it being like almost like a psychosis, or even just the fact of the mental disorder, the mental disease, the physical disease. It's another word I was looking for. Just It was something else I was looking for, but it was coming to me. But just the simple fact of, again, like the self righteousness or people being in place where you hear people always hollering about, well, the elite, the this and that. Well, if you have a physical elite, there's always a cosmic elite. There's always a spiritual elite. There's always something more high ranking. I don't care what movie you watch. There's always a force that comes in to remind people who have got beside themselves that there is something far more greater than what you have been subjected to or even consumed by. It made me reference, what is it, the Dark Vader, where he got so consumed, and then when he took off his mask, people who get so consumed by their sorcery or witchcraft or consumed by so much to where they are forgetting that life is a balance. Everything's a balance. Everyone has a dark side. Everyone has a light side. Everyone has a version to them that, whether subconsciously or unconsciously, they keep away, not just from other people, but from themselves first. And this is where the holistic aspect comes in. Why fear people who have been in place when realistically I know that they've been given that status. They've been given that that position. And this is where, again, the power struggle comes in. This is where discipline comes in. This is where, again, where we see the scale tip so much to where, okay, things are becoming way too much out of, too chaotic to where a source comes in, or the most high, whatever you want to call it, and balance things. Oh, this is getting too out of hand, and this is where you see your healers who have honored the dark and realizing how much of becoming a healer has to do with honoring your darkness or going through those dark nights of the soul, going through the experiences where it seems all the odds are stacked up against you and now here you are, or going through things where you were very inconsiderate because you did not consider yourself. You did not consider the fact of balancing yourself, being there, showing up for you, and then showing up for others. The shit is beautiful, man. And it's just like, you know, when I look at what has happened and unfold, it's just like, imagine people who are built communities or built structures that, imagine you not watering this side of the garden, but you just want to water your community. You just want to put resources and make sure the money circulates in your community. And you're forgetting about the most important part of the garden, which eventually it's like, I see people like this. I'm gonna give y'all an analogy before I go. The humans, the people that have been that have done things so thoughtlessly, I see them as the world. Let's say people see it as, we're living in Eden, or this is Eden right now, right? And you see people not realizing, like, hey, we're living in a garden of life, right? Water, I always tell people, rain don't miss no man's house, nobody's home, right? So as much as people want to be over here and just water themselves and just water everything dealing with just their family, their communities and so forth, and forget about this part of the garden that weeds grow up, I didn't mean to say pests, but certain things creep in and eat fruit. Those who know who garden know, like, it's certain things you have to do to keep certain intruders out, right? So imagine people here building communities or building structures, and the whole time they have these people believing, because they're in the trenches or they're in certain places where they don't have the same resources. In reality, they all come from the same fucking soil. They all come from the same source. And they over here thinking that they have the ability that they have this superiority. And they don't realize that the whole time while they're trying to focus on one thing, these weeds are growing. These weeds are growing. This can be your government, this can be people, this can be whomever it is, who are so succumbed by their belief systems. And these are the inconsiderates. They're not considering these people. So what end up happening, these weeds end up growing so high. These weeds end up seeping in here. This is where they build their gates and, build their banks and build all these things and not consider these people. But eventually, the intruders, they call them, because that's how I believe we're seen as intruders. Like, how do you intrude a land that you were indigenous to or you were the origins of? We all come from the same soul. As a rapper said, we're all indigenous in reality or realistically. Whether you're born in a vessel and so forth, you're indigenous to that land. Now, melanin is one thing. People who have melanin and so forth. But anyway, a whole nother subject. You're skipping past the fact that when you don't water this, eventually it can become so big, the weeds become so big that as much as you wanted to ignore what you didn't consider, you eventually realize how inconsiderate you have been to now consider these very people who are a part of creating everything to balance things out, regardless. As much as you think you don't need to consider them, eventually you will. I call that karma, and I call this dharma. So people who feel that they're inconsiderate, trust me, you're going to get your dharma as well as these people are getting their karma. And all of it is people receiving their fucking lessons. You're receiving your lessons just as people here who felt that they were not valuable, who they were not seen. Imagine a system imagine powers that used to be or certain things, like literally created things where you feel you're not to be seen. Imagine that. Only for you now to be so vibrant and illuminated for the world to see how inconsiderate these people have been, no matter their color and creed or even whatever class or so forth. Only for now Big Mama to remind us that energy of Big Mama to come in to take her throne and to remind you that, or her daughter per se, that energy of considering the child, the children, the daughters who will give birth to the nations, and then their sons who will come together with these women as they grow, as the daughters turn into these mothers and these generational things. And then we realize like, wow, these people now start to realize, oh gosh, we've forgotten about, we've got so consumed, so self-righteous in who we want to be in our image, because you're trying to just keep up an image. That's what their garden looks like. They're just trying to keep up things on the superficial surface level. And these people over here have this internal aspect, who are every day facing the things, who are every day trying to navigate their world, and still somehow are here. And then still somehow have some compassion for the ignorance of these people. So again, I would advise these people, still be who you are in integrity, to walk upright, to be righteous, but also consider yourself to remove yourself, to consider yourself now. And you'll see the role reverse. And that's why you'll be able to see people's true colors. You'll be able to see people right now. It's so clear who people are. People are very inconsiderate, and they know they have been. They're very headstrong. And some of them they don't know. But you have to consider the feelings or emotions of other people, and you know it. But we've been told, especially, let's say certain people of a darker shade who have experienced so much of dehumanization or being devalued and so forth, somehow, some way, you still have compassion for ourselves and through the ignorance of you, and have compassion even for your kids, because you don't even know what you're doing. You're setting them up for what you perceive to be success, but in reality, it's spiritual failure. Because they don't consider other people, realizing how much you are interconnected. So again, as we now, uh, some people here start to consider other people where they come in with resources. And I'm telling y'all, don't be distracted by all this other bullshit when it comes to people coming in with money. It's bigger than money. It's about currency now, spiritual currency, frequency. Because no matter how people try to rush in and want to give you all these other things, by you being in tune, by you are being considerate more of yourself, you'll be able to be more aware of seeing and becoming and knowing who people are. That will protect your heart above all things. No longer wearing your heart on your sleeve. Protect it. Your heart will be your guide. You coming into more alignment, to a higher awareness, is because people who assume over here to not consider other people who are being inconsiderate, people over here, get out of their way. Get out of their way. Because what we're seeing play out is that I had to learn to let people go through their shit. And this may sound harsh for a lot of people. As much as I have compassion with people, at times I have to say I don't care in a respectful way of knowing that what I can do and what at this moment I'm not able to do for you right now. Because that was a lesson in seeing the inconsiderate. I can consider you in different ways, but it won't be the same thing. This is why we have to learn how trusting ourselves and knowing thyself and learning people's action and being more of the observer. Because now people over here, as we sit with ourselves and be more peaceful and realize we have to weed out these very things because that weed that consumed us, that confusion, we believing that these people over here who was inconsiderate and didn't have morals and values, who was deemed to be more superior, we starting to realize like, what? No, they have spiritual weeds that are consuming them. Even how much on the physical aspect they want to perceive it to be like they have it all together, they don't. As much as you start to realize, like, oh gosh, they don't have it together either, just as well. No one does. When you're going through a shift like this and the world is shifting and so forth, you will come to the self-realization how valuable peace is and how important you want to protect it. So even through your fact of how the weeds may have consumed you, now you're cutting this out and removing these people and so forth because you have to tend to your garden just as they tended to theirs. But you're going to do it in an authentic way. You're going to do it in integrity. You're going to do it with morality, not just on the surface level, but on the spiritual, mentally, emotional level. So again, know thyself, love thyself, show up for thyself. You got this. I trust you. I believe in you. You got to do the same for yourself. So y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.